everybody. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. It's 9 p.m. here in Ireland. It is time for our spiritual light. And today, as you can see, our friend Munir Gariba is with us. Thank you, Munir, for joining us.
Pleasure, Stevan. Hello to all those watching us. It's a pleasure to be again here with you and Charles and Elsa.
Good. And our topic today, it is living Spiritism daily from knowledge. That's what we do here. And to practice. So it's a great content following our discussions in the past weeks. And today we're gonna wrap up this discussion on how to practice the Spiritism on a daily basis. So, and for that, Munir and I have two good people here supporting us, which is Elsa and Charles. So, good evening, Elsa. How are you, my dear?
Hello, Stevan, Munir, Charles, Simone, my friends, Lucia that asked right now the link, everyone that is online now with us. It's a great pleasure to be here again. You know that this wonderful event, show that we can call every week, is achieving people non-spiritists, people that the first time enter at random, inverted commas, because we know that we are guided by the spirits to go here and there. Sometimes we accept the intuition and come here and like what this topic that we are offering. So it's a great joy to be here once again, continuing. Thanks God for that.
Great. Thank you. Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir, Steven. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Indeed, it's always a pleasure to be here together to touch about this topic about theory and practice.
Good. This is wonderful. And Munir, good evening, my friend, and
good evening, Stevan.
Everybody introduces. Okay. So, as I was saying, throughout this month, we have reflect on truth, thought, sensitivity, and the balance between faith and reason. But Spiritism does not remain meant to remain only study or discussion. We need to act. We need to put everything in practice, because when you say beautiful things, when you go to a beautiful speech, when you read a wonderful book that touches you, touch your heart, it's one thing. Now we need to put our hands on. So we need to materialize what we have read in the books, what you have read in the Spiritism teachings, what we heard from the YouTube videos and everything. So we need to put this in practice. And Allan Kardec reminds us that the true spiritist is recognized by their moral transformation and their efforts to overcome the imperfections. So just reading the books, just watching the videos, just going to the spirit center or going to the church this will not make any moral transformation. So, in other words, it is the practice that transforms us. And tonight, we reflect on a simple but profound question: how can we live Spiritism in our everyday lives, in our thoughts, relationships, work, and challenge? Because real transformation does not happen in extraordinary moments. It happens in small choices we make every single day. So, Munir, since you are our special guest today, I want to start with you, my friend. And I think that the first question is, what does it mean to truly live Spiritism? When we need to live Spiritism, what's the context behind these words?
Hello, Stevan. Yes, this is, you see, this topic of tonight is fundamental, is paramount, because it touches the essence of our, not just Spiritism, but our lives here. Why are we here? I remember, allow me to tell, a real story. It happened to me, actually, when I was young. I joined a youth movement, Spiritist movement. We had a study group there. And I would say it was very naive on, my side to think that, I needed a practical guide to apply Spiritism. You see, I had, I started to get to know Spiritism, to learn about the Medium's book, the Spirit's book, but I felt the need to have a guide to tell me how to use that on a daily basis. I felt that it was important to take everything I was receiving in terms of teachings, and transform myself, transform my life, use that as a guide. I couldn't find, in those days, I couldn't find. Maybe today, if we look for, a practical guide for Spiritism, in the sense, not of practicing mediumship or, healing or whatever, but to put Spiritism into practice in our lives. And this is fundamental. I mean, there's no point. It's like having your water in a lake and keeping it still. It becomes stagnant. You have to move that water, to renew it, to give it some life, as it were. And the purpose of us being here in the material world is our progress, intellectual and moral. Intellectual through the challenges and all knowledge that we manage to gain. And moral, how do we gain moral progress? How do we achieve that? Is it by learning, studying, reading? Yes, it helps. It's fundamental there. But we need to put it in practice. How? Set 1 hour a week to put into practice inside the Spiritist Center, or with a group, or doing some charity, in the streets, to the homeless or wherever. Or would make more sense for us to take every opportunity, every second of our passage here on earth, to try to apply those teachings. Remember, Jesus said, if you love me, keep my commandments. What did he mean by keep my commandments? In your mind, they couldn't memorize things, very easily. They were limited in intellectual terms in those days. Did he mean, carry books with the, commandments? No. What he really meant is put in practice what I just, exemplified to you. And I think this is fundamental in Spiritism. It's very important to study. It's very important to have all the information. It helps us, we have our intellectual side. It's like a compass. You give us a north, right? But we have to start walking in that direction. And that direction means, step by step, putting into practice all the teachings that we are receiving. This is a personal job. This is an individual job. It's not by going to the Spiritist Center that I become a better person, that I gain, spiritually speaking. It's not by watching, YouTube videos from renowned Spiritist speakers. No, that is not enough. It is important. Yes, it is important. But we should work within ourselves, day by day, with all that we have received, knowing ourselves very well. It is very important to know where we are. You see, when a civil engineer is invited to start a building from scratch, first thing he has to know where he's going to build that, what kind of soil. You can't just take something ready made and say, okay, this applies to every situation. No, it's not true. He has to study first where he's going to raise that building, you see. And it's the same. We have to know ourselves and then start to work knowing ourselves, start to put into practice what we are taught, all the knowledge that we have received, all the discussions and considerations, and slowly we become better. So I think it's fundamental for us to think how to put into practice what we receive in terms of teachings and experience and knowledge from Spiritism.
Thank you, my friends. Thank you. Elsa, do you want to complement something?
Well, I like when Munir explain things because as academic person, he knows every way, every moment, the way that what we need to know in sequence. And I like when his own example. But what I prepare here, first of all, if we try to know Spiritism, we need to know and truly know what Spiritism means. Yeah? Means much more than simply knowing its teachings intellectually. According to Allan Kardec, in the Spiritist understanding of the gospel of Jesus, Spiritism becomes real when its principles are applied in daily life. As we know ourselves, but we know how to apply what we are learning through Spiritism because we are changing ourselves, attitudes, relationships, and inner transformation, as Munir pointed it very well. And Jesus did not merely teach ideas. Jesus, as a teacher, a professor, not only ideas, but he exemplified compassion, love, forgiveness, humility in action. In the same way, Spiritism invites individuals not only to study spiritual truths, matters, but to embody them in everyday conduct. Then we know that in the gospel, according to Spiritism, as everybody knows, I take with me as a book of psychology, because everything that we learn is there, helping us to maintain ourselves in the right pathway, less sufferings, more understanding. Everything that happens in our life that is a reason, so we can live every day a different way, a better way than yesterday. Okay, and Kardec emphasizes that the true spiritist is recognized by moral transformation and by efforts to overcome personal imperfections. Is for us as spiritists, but for people that are watching now for the first time, maybe reflect the importance that this simple way to learn, free in our group Spiritist Center, free lessons, free courses, free online courses, everything give us the insights to know a little bit more. You don't need to change your religion or your sect or your beliefs, but add the knowledge of the Spiritist teachings that Charles always pointed this body of knowledge. And I am copying Charles now because it's really good. It really transforms our life for the better way to live in this planet of trials and attunements, understanding the anticipation of how to love, how to live a better life now, not in the future, now, here and now. That is something that I would like to contribute.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. Charles.
Yes, I think Elsa and Munir gave very clear explanations indeed. With the Spiritist body of knowledge, we learn what we are, where we come from, and where we go to. We know that we had past lives, that we are currently incarnated, and that we will one day or the other, sooner or later, pass away and go back to the spiritual world. Okay, so this gives us what is the purpose of life, which is the evolution of our soul. So these are the teachings, the theory. We know also what we have to do in order to reach this goal. Now the question is, okay, what are we waiting for? If we don't do it, we will simply not progress. And it will be even more difficult because we knew what we had to do and we didn't do it, you know. And on another hand, when we do it, as Elsa just told, we just grow in everything, in knowledge, in goodness, and we help the others, and we how to say, we really make the effort which is needed, because nothing comes without effort. But we are motivated to do this effort because we know we have the knowledge, we know the theory, and we know also what to do to go there. And there is a very simple little story. It was coming from Chico Xavier somewhere, and there was a spiritist who was quite brilliant in giving lectures, So he was called in different spiritist centers around in the region where he was living, and always giving speeches and very refined, interesting, motivating, and so on. And in a given city, in a given spiritist center, he noted that there was one participant who came at each of his talks, and he was really very paying a lot of attention to what he was saying. And of a sudden, when he came back to the spiritist center, this fellow was not there anymore. Okay, so he didn't have any information about what happened with him. And sometime later, this fellow got older, and he got ill, and some years later, he passed away. And when he passed away, he found quite some difficulties on this return to the spiritual world. He was in a trouble, in kind of a trouble. He didn't know exactly what happened. He was expecting the things to be different a little bit, in spite of his knowledge. And after some time in this situation, some spirits came to rescue him. And amongst these spirits, he recognized this man who was participating to all his lectures in that spiritist center. And then he asked like this, "Wow, how did you get to such an important position in the spiritual world?" And then he answered to him, "Oh, it's thanks to you. Very simple, because I was really doing all my efforts to put in practice what you were teaching." And this illustrates perfectly, okay, what do we want? So if you want it, let's go for it.
Let's go for it, Yeah, we need to. Hey, I was
Okay.
frozen. I'm okay now.
Yes.
So, yeah, so we need to leave Spiritism.
I have a small story to tell, Stevan, if you allow me.
Okay, well, full stars today.
Because,
Yeah.
as Charlie said, this story reminds me of almost similar, but in a different way. I'm married I tell people that I'm married. My husband was a spiritist. I was very Catholic, and I went to work in his company, the company that he was working as well, Philips. And everybody in this company loved this person, Luis. Luis, facing so many difficulties, always smiling, always is there for someone, for here, for there, always helping everyone, always have a solution, put the names in his books of prayers, etc. And of course, went to Spirit Center every week. And we started dating, and of course, we got married. And I was astonished because I always was thinking that Spiritism was something that occultism, so we didn't want to touch, talk, to say things about Spiritism. But seeing his behavior every day in the company, 1 year, 8 months, every day the way that he was teaching others, talking to others, helping others, that make me think a lot. So 3 years later, of course, I embraced Spiritism. And I try to follow him as a close example for me. That my transformation, of course, was living Spiritism every day, make me a better mother, a better sister, a better wife or friend. So I follow the same rules. Do to others what you want the others do unto you. And that is the good way to live. So we don't get cross with people. We don't shout. We don't have anger too much. We have things normal, but not keep this more than okay 1 hour. Let's say like that. And we go and always asking forgiveness to others, even if I didn't hurt someone. That is the good way, as seen here, from knowledge to practice. Because if when I study every day, but when I learn and remind me, oh, this lesson again, something is for me here, and put in practice, my life is a blessing. Even when I have trouble, problems, etc., it's a blessing. God, Jesus said, give thanks in everything. So even the worst things that happens in our life, there is a reason for that. And Spiritism bring this is strange, this force, this light into our life. Not because I am a spiritist, it's because it's good for everyone. As I said before, do not need to change. Religion, nothing need to change. Only ourselves in order to open our hearts and put in practice this good knowledge that we have in our hands for free. Don't need to pay for that. It's a therapy of life that we do ourselves.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Elsa. Yeah, we tend to fall into the trap, believing that if I belong to this or that religion, I'm saved. You see, or I'm doing well in spiritual terms. And I say trap because some people, even within Spiritism, believe that by going regularly to the Spiritist Center, by having a task within the Spiritist group, by studying the doctrine, that is enough to make sure that I'll go to better place in the spiritual world or improve spiritually speaking. But we forget that without charity there is no salvation, and charity is at the reach of everyone. The beauty of Spiritism is that it gives us a tremendous tool. We have a task, and then we have different tools to accomplish that. And Spiritism is a wonderful one that will help us. Will make our journey more. How would I say? We will benefit much more from it if we have the knowledge that Spiritism is offering us, because it is a universal knowledge. If we practice what we are taught within Spiritism, but we need to practice that. We are the ones to do the journey. We have the tool. It's like getting a wonderful car, very comfortable one, with all the resources one would need to travel in a very comfortable way, self-sufficient in power, whatever, and say, wow, that's wonderful. But we don't go anywhere, with that. So Spiritism is here to give us, I would say, the elements we need in order to hasten our progress, to go faster, and with knowledge. We know that we need to grow in knowledge, but also in moral terms. And in moral terms, we evolve by practicing moral values, by practicing these good values, by acting according to the universal laws that we are taught within Spiritism. And for the first time, very clearly, Spiritism makes things clear. Is it new what Spiritism says? No, we can't say that it's totally new. We received similar teachings in a veiled way in the past because we couldn't understand as we can today. We have reached a point of an intellectual development where we can understand things in a better way. But we get to know how the laws of life. And Charles mentioned reincarnation, that we know where we come from. We know where we are going. We have all the elements to give us a boost forward. But sometimes we remain stagnant there in the same difficulties, looking down instead of looking ahead, looking up.
Stevan will come back later. The minute they try there, okay? You
Okay.
can carry on. Okay. And
It is exactly this, and we have also the spirits coming through mediumship and giving us information. I like the small story I just told. There are hundreds of similar stories from people of several conditions. I mean, poor, rich, king, slave, spiritist, non-spiritist, and so on. And what comes out of this is unanimous. They all are really consistent amongst themselves, saying, "Oh, I'm having difficult time now because I could have done much more than what I did, and I lost a lot of opportunity to do good, and so on and so on." So they come and tell us, please go, do. Don't wait, because it's for your happiness. The more you give, the richer you are. And this is also, how to say, motivating, because it's not theory anymore, because they come and tell us exactly what happened, what could be the consequences if we do, and what are the consequences if we don't do, what is necessary. And this is why Allan Kardec, he wrote his book. One in particular on this topic is The Gospel According to Spiritism. It's not theory. It's really day by day cases, examples, commented from these moral teachings, which are universal, but that are amongst others given by Jesus 2,000 years ago. And then also some communication of the spirits, as I just told. And all this consistently then pushing us to question ourselves. What can I do? What can I not do? What shall I? And as Elsa told, it's now when we look back, when we have already some years of spiritism or some decades like me, you analyze the path you followed. Of course, could have done better. That's sure, but at least some things have been done, and even if it's not so much, even if it's a little, the doing something is already very important. A lot of things I did before I was spiritist, I don't do anymore. Okay. I don't miss this. It was a phase, acquiring maturity, acquiring comprehension of the purpose of life, of the meaning of life, and whatsoever. And then making the choices, and then also trying to put them in practice. Give up for doing some things which do not bring a lot in our progress, and at the opposite, doing things that we didn't do but which are bringing a lot in the evolution of our soul, helping us a lot to move towards happiness. As Elsa gave a wonderful example as well. I mean, we see when we see that we are really on the good way and having also this conscience, because we have a spiritual mentor. Each of us have a spiritual mentor, and the voice of our conscience. I have good conscience when I did something good, and I have bad some conscience when I missed to do something good or when I did something bad. And this voice of the conscience is giving an immediate reaction, a very quick reaction to all these situations we are passing through in our life. And the fact to have good conscience is really giving peace in your heart and helping you to be as happy as possible on this planet, which, as I told as well, is quite a little bit difficult still. But okay, we know why and how, and trying to do the little we can do in order to improve the situation.
Yes, you see, Charles, of all the Spiritist books, they are so important, so relevant, because they tackle, they bring the different aspects that are necessary for us to, gain information and knowledge about, and, moral guidance and explanation about the exchange with the spiritual world, the reality of the spiritual world, mediumship, which is, a faculty that we all have, at different degrees at this moment, but we all have. But I got to appreciate so much the book Heaven and Hell, because it shows exactly the results of following this path or following that path.
Munir, cannot see you. Munir, lost Munir now.
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but
For
we
some
cannot see
reason,
you anymore.
yes, I think my computer changed the camera. Let me see if I can. Yes.
You are a ghost now.
Yeah. Okay, I'm back, because I've got a virtual camera, and I don't know why StreamYard every now and then changes from one to the other, and of course the other one is off. So as I was saying, the book Heaven and Hell gives us practical examples of the consequences of our actions. And sometimes we tend to think that only the important events in our lives will get results to us in the future. But we learn, for instance, in groups, spiritist medical doctors working with patients with certain diseases, and then they look into the causes, previous causes of the infirmities they have in front of them, and they see that sometimes it was just something simple that was neglected by that spirit in a previous incarnation. Because sometimes they say, "Oh, I came to this incarnation with a stomach problem. I think that's because I killed 100 people with poison, and today I'm pain." No, sometimes it's something simple that we overlooked in our previous incarnation, that we bring as an imbalance in our perispirit, something that we have to sort out. So this small things in our lives, not the major ones, but small things are actually there for us to learn and start to act in order to bring balance. We know cases of spirits who returned without the sight, and that was because they used it, not because they took the sight from blinded so many people in the past. No, sometimes they use this faculty in a very negative way, and they decided it was good for them to evaluate the importance of having sight and using it correctly, that they decided to come without it. And so many other situations that people come with in this current incarnation. So it is an invitation for us to look at every small aspect of our present incarnation and start to do something positive about that slowly. Because imagine to get to the condition of a pure spirit, It's not a question of just us now as we are becoming good. No, we have to develop so many faculties in us, faculties that we can't even imagine, that we bring, in a dormant state. And to do that, it requires a lot. We know that to get a degree here on earth, we have to sweat a lot. We have to study a lot. We have to practice a lot in order to get a single degree, That may not mean a lot after a few years, because the knowledge we gain to get that degree, is basically, no longer valid or outdated. Can you imagine the faculties of the spirit? So we know it's a long journey, but we make this journey step by step. And we shouldn't neglect this step. I think Elsa mentioned this current incarnation, the present moment, with those around us, with the condition that we are, because this is what is going to push us forward, if we know how to to put it into practice what we are receiving from Spiritist teachings.
Great. So I'm back. I'm back. So which discussion, which question you were talking about?
One.
Oh, it's one. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Okay. And the team is complete now.
Yoo-hoo, Silvia.
Hello, Silvia.
Hello, I'm sorry I'm coming late.
Well,
Just
doesn't
finished
matter. As
another
long as
meeting.
you can come anytime. Yeah.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here with you.
Yeah. And I want to start with you, Elsa. What's the simple daily practice that that reflect a spiritist living? What can you do on our day by day? Because as we are saying here, once you say I am a spiritist, you are a spiritist inside and outside of the spirit center. Like when someone say I am Catholic, I assume that person is Catholic when they are in the church, when they are outside the church. I am Jewish when I'm inside the synagogue, when I'm outside of it. So, but what's the simple things we can do in our daily basis? Like if someone wants to start, what they can do?
It's simple and it's not simple. Depend always the will of the person, the intention of the person. If the person tercerize everything, asking the others to do things for the person to be better, of course, this doesn't happen. Joana de Angelis explained in her books, very nice indeed, always talking about the inverted commas inner reform. Eh? And she said, all the things depend, in psychologically speaking, the own on ourselves, the individuals. Everyone has their own free will to do things accordingly what he is learning. So for me, as the way that I choose to live, in simple way, is to be good, to be charitable, to understand each other's, never judge. Try to see the entire panorama before any step or conversation or inverted commas gossip, because we don't know what happens with the other side. I know, sometimes I don't know what's happening with me. So I can really see what I'm doing in the society, in the spirit center, in my job, in my church, my synagogue, whatever. But my way to be a better person is start inside me. My way to have a better life is start inside me. We are talking about today with a friend that something wrong and lock the luggage. It was difficult to open. And I said, do you see what's going on? That the same as metaphorically speaking, we blame God when things are wrong with us. But you yourself locked the own luggage and now you don't know the code, blah, 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 blah. You cannot blame the other person, only you. So we are the making our own loss to be a better person because we forget that the loss of God is in our conscience. And João de Angelis explained very well when we are reading about these values in ourselves. The real change that we have to change ourselves. I change with the will. I wanted to change. I want to be a better person. I want to be a good friend to someone or in my society. But we have to do self-observation, ethical behavior, and emotional responsibility. We have to be aware about this spiritual perspective of our life. Yeah. Really, is it simple? In a way to say, sometimes for people are difficult to change, difficult to stop a gossip, difficult to start a judgment thing that is terrible, terrible, terrible. I never judge because for me, judgmental person are the ones that do does mistakes every time, every day, if you can say like that. So we have to be sincere and do our own efforts to self-improve ourselves. Improving ourselves, we can improve things in the family, improve the relationship, and not blaming other people with our own actions that are happening in my life. Let's say like that. Now Silvia is here and she is studying one of the angels more than me, and it's great to listen to Silvia as well. Your mic?
Oh, you, Silvinha?
Yes, what you're saying is really true. And Joanna, she gives us always, she tells us everything that is wrong about what we do, humanity, and she makes us see what it is. And she always, always offers a way out. She gives a path that we can follow, a light that we can follow. And exactly, I mean, but I think we learn within the spirit's body of knowledge, from the spirits, really more or less everything we need to know to make our lives better. Is to understand that we are on this earth for a very short period of time, that the reason why we're here is to learn lessons and to readdress wrongs that we've done in the past. So life is precious in a sense that we are being given an opportunity to make things better than we did before. And also that we live the consequences of what we do. We are responsible for ourselves. I think one point that Elsa made, which is very, very true. We tend to sometimes, and especially, sometimes people see themselves as a victim, everybody else is to blame. And it's very fashionable, actually, at the moment, this victimhood thing. And Spiritism teaches us there is no victims, that we live, whatever we live is the consequences of what we've done in the past. And even in studying Joanna, actually, in the meeting before, she gives a list of things that some of the torment, some of the pain we have are consequences of our past actions in past lives, and sometimes even in this life. And once we understand why we're suffering or why things are difficult for us, we are able to change things. And Andrea Luis in one of the books, I think it was The Higher World, he says, a change of mind is a change of life. Once we decide to make our lives different, we can do it. We change our thoughts, we change how we do things, and we make our life better. And I think one of the things as well that you learn from Spiritism is that you need to forgive yourself. We made mistakes. We make mistakes all the time. How many times we fail, think like one of the quotations of Paul, the apostle, is that the things that I shouldn't do, I do, and the things that I want to do, I don't do. And I think it was real for him, and it continues to be real for all of us. How many times we have plans, oh, I'm going to be better, I'm going to go to inner reform, I'm never going to say anything negative about anyone, I'm going to be positive. And then something happens and we forget that completely, because we are still learning. We're still in the process of learning. But I think one of the things that I feel about, in learning about Spiritism is that there are things that, giving my own example of things that I was used to do, that thinking. And now, I catch myself saying, oh no, but, remember that question in Spirit's book? He says this, that, and the other, and you're doing the opposite. So I catch myself sometimes doing something that I've already read that is not positive thing to do. So, but, I think Kardec pointed out as well, we need to be tolerant with our mistakes, change what we can, and make an effort. And each one of us have their own difficulties to deal with. So I think once we understand that we ourselves can change, many of the things we live is consequence of what we've done. We become more tolerant with ourselves, more tolerant with others, less judgmental. I think that was a point that Elsa made as well, that we become less judgmental of others because we know how hard it is to change, to make things different. But also, I think, not in the sense of being tolerant with ourselves, the sense that, I'll do this my next incarnation. Like sometimes you hear people say, I can't do this. My next incarnation, I will do it. No, you have to start doing it now. So in the next incarnation, you won't have that problem to deal with. It'll be much easier then. And if we are able to, see that we have difficulties in being a little better, we can understand that other people also have the same struggles, and makes us a little more understanding and more caring and more empathy. And, like Joanna Diana says in the text we're just reading, was that love, that's what Jesus taught us, to love, to forgive, to be patient and with ourselves and with others. And that's what makes life better. Love, it's that part of us that brings us close to God and to something better, more positive. Love is the way, is the path. I think that's what I
Thank
feel
you.
anyway.
Thank you. Thank you. I also wanted to say good evening to Simone Cheshire, Martina Farah, Bruce Bardaga, Patrick 7100, Yalia Rome. So thank you for joining us. And also, if you do have a questions, please ask your questions in our chat and we can reply it from here. Okay. So now question for the boys. The girls already answered. Now question for the boys. So Charles, I'm going outside of the protocol here because that's in everything you have studied from Kardec. You have the document you found about Kardec, knowing him, knowing his steps, where he lived, what is his history, what happened to his family, everything you have acquired or find out about Kardec. Do you think Kardec was a truly spiritist? And why? You're on mute, my friend.
Yes, indeed, it's a good question. You talked about Kardec or Rivai? I think both, huh? Because
Revival. Let's say revival.
because Kardec he became only from 18th of April
Yeah.
1857, which means 169 years ago, recently. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was a person which was, I would say, like you and me, a normal person. Huh? He had, of course, some skills. He was very early, mature in the school with Pestalozzi, and wrote his first book. He was 18 years old. So he did a lot of things that I didn't do, for instance. Huh? So he had potential and a big capacity. So this is for sure. But then he had a life facing the difficulties like everyone, and then liking. He liked to go to the theater, for instance, because at that time there was no cinema yet, huh? No movies, and to meet with friends and social events with his parents and friends and so on. You know, so he had, I would say, even a quite a normal life, huh? And enjoyed the life. Huh? So what once he discovered in 1855 the moving tables and uh, got aware that behind such a trivial phenomenon there was a potential whole philosophy, answering to a lot of existential questions that humankind is asking without having comprehensive or complete and satisfactory answers. Then I think it was how to say, also for him a game changer. You know, he was already good. He did already a lot of good things in his life, educating people, young people, and doing his best in his work and whatsoever. Huh? So he had the potential. But then, with the comprehension, I think he, and not only him, but also his wife, Amélie Boudet, they really it was not for them a question of curiosity, you know. They understood the purpose of it, huh? And they immediately went to all the not only philosophical but also all to the ethical and moral consequences, applying it on themselves. And this, of course, they did not. You know, Jesus told, "Let your left hand not know what the right hand is doing." So they were not claiming here, oh, I'm doing a lot of charity, I'm doing this. They made it really without telling. And sometimes only in the letters they wrote one to the other, some things like this appear that we were not aware of. How they went, a widow who lost her husband, Amelie was going there, visiting, helping. They also adopted a little girl from very poor parents or even unknown father and whatsoever, and educated until this girl died. Because at that time there was a lot of young people dying. I think only half of the ones who were born went older than 6 years old. So, in fact, there are a lot of elements showing that with the comprehension, they really put it in practice. So, for them, it was not only theory; it was not just a gambling or making investigation and that's it, or trying to prove the phenomenon is authentic. Of course, it's good to prove that the phenomena are authentic. But so what? What do you do with it? And they went immediately to all these consequences, applying it on themselves first. And this also was the case of Amélie Boudet until she died in 1883. So several years, more than a decade after her husband.
Beautifully. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you, Munir?
Yes, Stevan, we shouldn't forget that charity is at the very center of the moral values that we get from Spiritism, and charity seen as benevolence towards all, indulgence of imperfections of others, and forgiveness of offenses. And considering also that a good Spiritist is he or she who makes an effort to become better, not better than someone else, better than themselves at the point that they are. I think yes, Allan Kardec was certainly a good Spiritist. As Charles mentioned, we know about the work, how yeah, the work he did in order to write the books, to do the experiments, to gather all the messages and make sense of them. We don't know personally that much, how charitable he was, but certainly by what we get already, we can, have a, almost certainty that yes, he was a good spiritist because he was trying to, become better, making the effort to become better. Otherwise, he wouldn't be bothered to, spend so much of his time, his life, in order to give the world what he, gave. So yes, I consider that he was
Yeah.
a good spiritist.
Yeah, and I go a little bit further because when you practice the love, like Elsa said, do not judge. Like you said, Munir, practice the charity. Like you said, Charles, being humble. Like you said, Silvia, being always trying to do the good. It is not a spiritist behavior. This should be the same in every kind of religion, and even though those who are atheists do not believe in God, but they practice it, they are more, between quotes, spiritist than someone who goes every single Monday or Tuesday day to the spirit center and like to judge the others. So when we start to practicing it, we will stop into fight about God. My God is better than yours. My God is powerful, more powerful than yours. So we're gonna well, uh, 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 we're gonna stop to have a narrow vision, and we will create a more a broad vision because I will care about my neighbor. I will care about what's gonna happen to that person. I will care about what's happening in that country. I will care what's happening in my family. The elevator pitch we will stop in talking about, oh, it's sunny today. How's the weather today? And you're praying for reach your level. So we will take care. When we take care of each other, things gonna change. But as we know, just open the newspaper. We are a little bit far from it, but there are people already doing it. And why we cannot be one of those people? That's the call for today. You know, uh, it's already our time because, and I want to say that Spiritism, it is not something we can practice on a week, once a week. It is something we live in every thought, every word, every action. And in that quiet, daily effort, the soul transforms. That's the message for today, my friends. So let me share my screen here. Go to our announcements. Okay. So here present. Okay, so our announcements. Next week, 6th of May, we will have our friend Edir Paixão, and the topic is Caring for the Soul, how to navigate difficult emotions. So 9 p.m. next Wednesday will be with Edir. So don't forget, every Saturday 10:30 a.m. we do have the Mediums book study, online study. Anyone can join. 10:30 a.m. London time. Okay, every other Sunday from 8:30 to 10 o'clock, we do have the study, Joanna Gianna's studies, Finding Your True Self. So this amazing course, Silvia is there. So join her in this course. So save the date. Between 18th of September to 20th of September, we will be at Investment in Belgium for the 9th European Gathering. And along with it, we're going to have the kids and the youth gathering. So anyone, it is more than welcome. Doesn't matter if you are a spiritist or not. If you want to learn more about things we spoke today without a label on it, that's the place you should be in September. And we're going to be there waiting for you. Please keep reading Spiritism magazine. It's free of charge and always with wonderful articles and material to study and to acquire knowledge. Thank you to Kardec Radio, Buzz, Life Spiritist Society, Irish Spiritist Federation, and Francophonic Spiritist Movement for the support in this show every Wednesday. So thank you so much for your time, and I want to say thank you all for your time, especially you, Munir. I know it is still afternoon for you, so thank you for making possible to be here with us. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, and Silvia, as I said, just come. Doesn't matter if half time, 10 minutes, 1 minute, as long as you are here with us, it is wonderful.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you as well.
Okay, good.
Sorry that sometimes I cannot make it.
Merci, Charles. Thank you.
Yes.
Elsa, thank you
Thank
so
you very
much,
much.
my dear.
God bless you all.
Is there anything better than, talk about Spiritism? There is nothing better.
No.
With
But
friends,
now
people who understand.
and we need to talk and put in practice.
Oh, yes, putting
That's the lesson today.
Yes,
Okay.
it goes to the mind and then we do it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.